All right. Welcome back. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you.
So this is the final installation of our 4-part study on faith, and we're going to finish it off with the master, and this one is called the faith of Jesus. So we started with true faith, then living faith, faith and hope, and now we're at the faith of Jesus, maybe a bit of more of a demonstration.
So should we go to the title slide?
Yeah.
Okay. So this picks up the story in one of the most, I don't know, in some ways wrenching periods of Jesus' experience here, which was right before his arrest. And he's praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. So I thought this was kind of appropriate because it was maybe the greatest test of his faith as a combined human and divine being, realizing what was ahead and wanting to know for sure that this really was the Father's will to proceed and let events take their natural course, which was, of course, the case. But he found himself in this very human, we really see his humanity come forward in this scene, in this situation, because he's having all the human feelings. He's afraid for his apostles. He's realizing from the world's eyes that, being crucified isn't exactly being held up to honor. There's a lot wrapped up in this that could cause a lot of human pain and emotional suffering. So they're saying here that this sorrow of love bore down on Jesus, and they're talking about his fears for his apostles, leaving them. He didn't feel like they were ready yet, and he really didn't know, from the human perspective, what was to become of them and all the other followers and everyone else in his life. So he's feeling this sorrow of love, having to leave at this moment. So this sorrow of love bore down on Jesus and made it more difficult to face such a death as he well knew awaited him. So again, this was right prior to his arrest. It was from memories of the sunrise and sunset on the shimmering Sea of Galilee that he soothed himself as he made his human heart strong and ready to encounter the traitor who would so soon betray him. So he was praying to God, and he was getting, mighty angel came down and strengthened him. So he was having divine, encouragement here and getting a true sense of what the Father's will was in this case. But in terms of comforting his human heart, they say made his human heart strong. His memories of the Sea of Galilee. And the Sea of Galilee is just...
This is a picture you took?
This is a picture I took, when I was in Israel. So you can see exactly what they're talking about here. This is a sunset with shimmering light on the Sea of Galilee, and it's just gorgeous and peaceful. It just kind of takes your whole heart and soul to a place that it's hard to even imagine without being there. And the interesting thing is that he's the creator of our local universe, of course. So this is part of his creation. But to be able to access that in his human heart and be soothed by it, I just think is an interesting combination of faith in the divine overcare of the Father, but also the soothing just from the comfort of the beauty of creation that we can also access.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. What a touching moment for the Creator to draw soothing hope and comfort in material creation that he was kind of part of. It's almost like a grandfather being soothed by his grandchild or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. There's just an interesting intersection of a lot of influences here. And of course he came through it, and he was strong and ready when the moment came.
Right.
But it was a sort of a combination of all these influences. So this is sort of a lead into the idea that what's so important about Jesus and the faith of Jesus. I mean, he's a son of God. I mean, he's a paradise creator son, but he's also human. So his struggles with faith are the same as ours. He had to approach his human faith just like we do. And we have a fragment of deity within us, just like he did. So in some ways, we're not so different, even though in other ways we're worlds apart, but we can learn from him.
Right.
And his faith struggles are very much like our faith struggles. So we can look to him as a mentor and as a inspiration and a guide.
Yeah, demonstration.
So.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So let me read this first one.
Yeah, go for it.
Jesus was and is the new and living way, whereby man can come into the divine inheritance, which the Father has decreed shall be his for but the asking. And then kind of with that works this next one is, through the appropriation of the faith of Jesus, mortal man can foretaste in time realities of eternity. So understanding our divine inheritance is only for the asking, right? So like we only have to ask and we can receive, because it's just the truth in our divine nature of who we are as children of God.
Recognizing it, asking sincerely.
Yeah. And then to take that step further, we can literally appropriate the faith of Jesus and start to kind of put on the Jesus glasses and see into the future of what is some of this spiritual reality and how it unfolds into eternity.
Right. This is again, an invitation to possibility. And this idea that we can appropriate the faith of Jesus, I think, is really interesting, because we can know him through the Spirit of truth. Even now, even though he's not physically here, we can continue to discover his nature and know him through the Spirit of truth. And also learning about his life is also part of that. That's what's so wonderful about the fourth part of the Urantia book. But all of that together gives us a sense of his faith. And when they say appropriating the faith of Jesus, that's kind of like we can, I don't know, imitate is the right word, but we can take it on. We can make it be ours. And that's a very powerful realization. The discover that we can do that. And then this receiving the inheritance is something we grow into. It's given in the moment, even now, as little as we understand it, but it's this vast gift.
Yeah, I almost just in my mind right now is thinking about what if, like, you were, let's just say, a guitar player, a young guitar player, and you came across Jimi Hendrix's old guitar, right? And now you're like appropriating this guitar and you're taking it on. Now, it doesn't mean that you play as well as Jimmy, right? But you're going through that same process that he learned on that guitar and like feeling that same camaraderie and taking on this tool that's using this relationship with music and divinity and with you and with everything and Jimmy too.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that's kind of like appropriating Jesus's faith. We're taking on Jesus's tool.
Yeah.
You know, putting on his apron or whatever.
Yeah.
And then getting to work.
Yeah.
But learning along the way that he's gone there and he's led and leaves signposts for us, or like, follow me, Spirit of truth. This is the way. That, you know, we can feel a deeper connection with Jesus and God in our unique experience in this path of faith and using Jesus's example.
Yeah. I mean, we could look to him. I mean, just the way he faced his death, you know, from that title slide, knowing that he was put to death so unfairly and so cruelly and so unnecessarily, but yet he faced that with dignity and calm and majesty even, and inspired others in the way he handled that situation. We can look to him and say, oh my God, well, okay, my life may not be quite as gnarly as all of that, but I can still look to that. And whatever is like difficult in my life, not be cowed by it, not be overcome by it, to look to Jesus and say, look what he did, look what he overcame. And I can do the same in the challenges that I face. Yeah,
and what I'm thinking right now is that the power in what you just said is not saying, oh, you could have it worse, so just, you know, buckle down and get it done, you know? It's more of like, look at how Jesus got through something that was even worse.
Yeah.
And so now I can learn how I can get through this too.
Or
I have it. I'm hopeful that I have it in me that, you know.
Yeah. And it's almost like he's reaching his hand down to pull us up. You know, look, I've been through it, you know, you can do it too. Here's my hand. You know, I'll strengthen you.
Courage and hope. Thanks, Jesus. All right, let me read this other one. Jesus' great contribution to the values of human experience was not that he revealed so many new ideas about the Father in heaven, but rather that he so magnificently and humanly demonstrated a new and higher type of living faith in God. So kind of like we were talking about majestically, but magnificently, but very human-based, is that bringing in a new code of conduct with the relationship with Spirit, with God.
Yeah, a new standard of possibility.
Yeah.
Well, I like here that they again include humanly in this sentence. Not that he magnificently as a divine being demonstrated a new and higher type of faith, but magnificently and humanly demonstrated a new and higher type of faith. So that again is what is the gift to us, because we're human, obviously, too. So seeing another human pull off something magnificent is an inspiration for all of us, because we realize, well, okay, maybe we can do something equivalent in our sphere, in our realm of our lives. May not be what Jesus did, but it can have that same quality of faith. You know, they're explaining here that it wasn't so much that Jesus taught a lot of new ideas about God, but that he demonstrated a new and higher type of faith.
Yeah, living a relationship with that presence, with that divine presence.
Right. It wasn't just an idea. It was real. It was the substance of his life. And it can be for us as well. And
again, working on faith, the faith being real experience, right?
Living experience, yeah.
And through his lived experience, he could call upon his experiences in his teachings of the nature of God, because he knows God and can teach and talk about him.
Yeah, like all this wonderful
quite freely
nature parables and metaphors and things.
That too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you want to read a quote?
So, okay. So here they say, never on all the worlds of this universe, in the life of any one mortal, did God ever become such a living reality as in the human experience of Jesus of Nazareth. So again, they're pointing to him, his human experience. I mean, he's human and divine, but the tendency, you know, in cultures since he left the planet has been to emphasize the divine part and forget the human part. But the human part is so important because that's what connects him to us. That's where we can look to him as a brother and a father and a friend and all of that. So this is like he revealed God more greatly than has ever been done. So there's nothing that we can't find in him that we need in terms of our faith.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that they didn't say that he came up with new laws in these theories or whatever. Nobody theorized or philosophized about God like he did.
Yeah.
But like he was demonstrating, he was living because it was real.
Yeah. Never did God ever become such a living reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just would love to see that.
Yeah.
And we can do that through the Spirit of truth. We can get some strong sense of it.
Yeah.
So let me just go to this next one. And then this is more about sort of the character of Jesus' relationship to God.
Well, to me, this is like you say you want to see it.
This
is kind of seeing it right here.
Here we go. Here's a good description. They say the faith of Jesus was trusting like that of a child, but it was wholly free from presumption. He made robust and manly decisions, courageously faced manifold disappointments, resolutely surmounted extraordinary difficulties, and unflinchingly confronted the stern requirements of duty. So his faith is not just like a thing where you just coast. Oh, let me jump on the flying carpet of faith, and then I never have to do anything anymore. I could just
couch of faith.
Yeah, couch of faith. So no, it's just the opposite. So here we have the creator of the universe living a human life and compelled, to make robust, manly decisions, have courage, resolutely surmount difficulties, unflinchingly confront the requirements of duty. I mean, in all of our lives, we have those things come up, the requirements of duty, disappointments, tough decisions, right? That's just part of being human on this planet. And it was true for him as it is for us. So it's good to have a sense of how his faith got him through all of that.
Yeah, he's the hero. That's true heroism and self-mastery, faith engaged with divinity, of where you're following the truth of these spiritual realities that you've experienced. And so the demonstration, that's really being a hero. And I can see how there's a disconnect in our society where some people really want to be this materialistic hero messiah complex kind of thing. And it's all in this external environment, and it's all state-based anyway, where you're like, feel powerful. But as I talked in the other one, in the other podcast, what you think you can do versus practicing and practically applying are two different things. So I appreciate how the Urantia book really reflects Jesus and his ability to go within and courageously make these decisions and come out faith born and faith tested, that they give more value to that than they do to all the military heroes, quote unquote, military heroes. And even Jesus says, you know, it's better to like seize to master yourself than to seize an entire city or whatever. So they're really flipping the whole script on what is heroic, and that this internal temple that you can be the hero of will really become so much more valuable to everything else, the whole, the part, everything, than the very slippery slope that we can fall into of this materialistic personification in identity and external validation of saving the world versus literally saving yourself with the truth. And the truth is God. The truth is that you're a child of God. And in that, trust me, the manifestations of that will save the world a lot quicker than you trying to save the world with your own will.
Yeah, right. You become effective in the service of higher values. You know, and one of the things about our culture is it so often glorifies vengeance. You know, that runs through so many movies. And Jesus was just like totally against that. He says the worst motivation, the motivation of revenge is like, has no part in the kingdom of heaven. You know, you return good for evil. You try to make the world better. You don't, you know. So we're running this runs counter to what maybe in terms of secular culture is maybe popular or sells tickets to movies. What he's talking about is a higher challenge where you see a higher standard, and then that entails overcoming all of these difficulties. So you have to fight for that in a sense. Yeah. You have to fight you fight your own doubt, your own disbelief that you are a child of God, that you can be a creator just like God is, and that God is with you. Yeah. Because everything else will tell you to just kind of impose your will on the world. Right. But here we're kind of engaging God's will in a way that we become more than we are. But it's not highly marketed. Yeah. But there's something in everyone's soul and in their heart that says, I can do this and I need to do this. There's something in me that relates to There's a greater love.
And let this be a challenge to you that there is a greater game to be played in life than just the material rat race. Yeah. This is a much greater challenge, as we've just been talking about, and the benefits and the rewards of embarking upon that challenge are out of this world. Yeah. Well, you become and achieve what you give your attention and your efforts to. So if it's about greater love, then you find greater love, and then that becomes part of your reality and the reality of the people around you. You know, it reminds me of something you were sharing earlier today about the apostles coming back after talking to the Greeks. You're saying, where there were a bunch of weaklings or whatever. Yeah. And Jesus had to remind them, no, if it's apostles of love, you've got to be tougher than anybody else. Yeah, I know. You've got to be able to endure this. Even being thrown to the lions, conceivably in those. Well, it's one thing to go into your death in a battle or whatever with a companion alongside. Yeah. But even more challenging is to go into your death alone. And with conviction, with spiritual convictions for the righteous cause that you're laying down your life for. Yeah, right. And that, is what we're really getting a taste of on this planet, because we are on a rebellion planet, and there are opposing forces sometimes. And we might find ourselves feeling lonely and isolated, but even in then, consider yourself blessed, because you are on a curriculum for something great as well. So
Right.
embrace your identity. Our
You got
identity.
the whole universe at your back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for all the hard work, Chuck. Really
Sure.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thanks for making all this happen, making it possible.
Yeah. Thank God. All right. Well, thank you guys. And, if you have any suggestions or requests for studies, please leave a comment. We really appreciate all the support, and see you next time.
See you on the next one.
All right.